In this episode of Leadership Hustle, we're going to talk about those subjects that never seem to get really resolved because we're probably not getting to the root cause. Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Hustle for executives whose companies are growing fast and need leaders who are ready. Welcome back to this episode of the Leadership Hustle. I'm Andrea Fredrickson, and I'm joined with my co-host, Michelle Hill.
Hello.
And today we're talking about a story that happens very frequently, but I will tell the story as it relates to one specific scenario. But I could literally put this in just about every company that we work with. And the story goes where we will be sitting in a meeting with a team, and they will make the comment that says, but we have a system for that. Well, which is great, policy, procedure, SOP, whatever that is. But in this, how this story unfolds is that we have listened to them work on the same problem over and over and over again. And every time they say, we have a process for that, or we have a system for that, or we have an SOP for that. And the reality is we're still trying to solve the same problem. And so I'm going to throw this at you, Michelle. If that is the case, what's the real issue?
Well, I think you could go twofold here. You could go many, but we'll stick to two. One could be they're not really solving the problem, or two could be they're not training, they're not coaching to the problem, they're not teaching people the solution. They create it, they identify these are the steps we need to do, and so forth, and they may have one conversation, but then there's not the follow-up. There's not the, I don't like to use the word accountability, but it's the checking in, how are we doing with this change? Because I think of if they create a process or a system, that's now a change in a habit of how we get things done, which means people don't have this habit, and they're probably gonna have to adjust a habit they had to this new and create a new habit.
Okay.
It's not just going to happen.
Right.
So they're not really, they're just like pushing here it is, and then just
set it and forget it.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone needs to be doing that.
Okay.
And they're not actually helping the people develop that new habit.
Okay. So the short answer is we probably have a leadership problem as opposed to the system. Although the system might be the problem, but what we don't know is when we look at the scenarios, if the system isn't delivering what we want, one of two things is the issue. Either the system is the problem or the people delivering the system are the problem. Right?
Correct.
And so when we look at the scenarios of, I could think of all kinds of different new software implementations and the workarounds that people have, the spreadsheets and spreadsheets and spreadsheets, and
giving me a headache with that.
Right. Or they have duplicates of things, and so one does it this way and somebody else does it another way, so the data entered is incorrect because there's not an understanding of what the actual correct data is.
Yes.
And so there's that. Or, the manager leader steps in and says, okay, I'll fix it. And they do a workaround, they save it, which means they're not following the system either.
Or they follow the system, but they're still not coaching to the system.
Yeah, there's one of the two. Either they're not coaching the system, this is the system, or we're holding people accountable to the system and making sure people are following through, no outside systems, here's what it is.
Yes.
Or they're stepping in and saying, I'll fix it, but they don't fix it. They would do a workaround themselves. Now they're not accountable to the system, and now we wonder why we're still having the same conversation over and over and over again. And people tend to blame other people for why the system doesn't work. Either they didn't create the right system. Well, that system's just stupid. I mean, I can't tell you.
Or that new program, that new software is awful. Well, it's awful because you don't like it's new.
It's new.
It's new. So now you don't have this habit. So it's uncomfortable, and you have to learn the new system, which takes time, slows you down. It takes longer.
And that's just if they're software. There are other systems that require zero software. It is so-and-so does this, so-and-so does that, so-and-so does that. That's the process that we follow.
And if one person doesn't
follow the process.
impacts the next person.
Right. I mean, I can look at some of the manufacturing plants or some of the distribution plants where
it can be
a
an
person
office.
does something and then they don't do it the right way, or they don't do it on a timely way, or they use a different piece of material, or they bring in somebody different who doesn't know the information. And so what I'm often not the most popular person when I say this, but when we have these meetings, I will bring up, it's like, we are solving the same problem that we've been trying to solve for multiple meetings, which tells me we're not getting to the root cause. And so I'm a big fan of going to find out what's actually happening, not just taking somebody else's word for it, but somebody watching what's step one, what's step two, and how is it compared to what's written down. Or they'll say, yes, of course we have that written down. And then when I go out and watch it, it's like, there's nothing written down. Somebody's got something on a Post-it note on their steps of what the password is for something, but that's not written down a process, right? And so they just look at me like, Andrea, we're not paying you to do that. I'm like, you're paying us to help you quit doing things in ways that don't work, right? To create efficiencies, to create a culture where most of the people are like, I understand what I'm supposed to do. I'm getting the results I'm supposed to.
Yes.
We all get to win. I feel safe at the end of it because these little activities are part of your culture. What you're tolerating, what you are rewarding, these are part of your culture.
Well, and it creates a culture of fear where people feel like they're doing it correctly and they're not because they haven't had the proper the conversations haven't occurred with them.
Or if they brought it up, it just goes on deaf ears because somebody doesn't understand what the employee is trying to tell them.
Correct.
Or they've already got it made up in their mind about what's
Yeah.
actually happening.
Well, and a lot of times I'll find, especially when you're looking at change, so it's a change in something, everyone has different needs and what do they need to accept this change and work through that process. And as the change might be announced at that high level, so people hear it, and then the managers may then at that point assume, well, you heard it from the VP or the president or whatever.
We told you.
Yeah, they told us, so people should just be doing it. And really that's when, I want to say the rubber hits the road as a manager, or supervisor, whoever is working with the people that are working with the thing that we're changing. It is about, let's talk about why. What questions do you have? What fears do you have? Let's work through that. Helping them buy in. It's not just going to happen. People are going to resist. They're going to push back. They're going to continue doing some of the things they always done. And if they're using the new software, they're still going to resist and maybe find shortcuts in there, quick workarounds.
Right.
Because ultimately, they don't truly understand the benefit. And from their perspective, the lens and how they view something, this is a waste of time. This is just too much work.
And there's no correcting.
And possibly.
You could be going through the process and you believe you're doing something right.
And that could definitely be another one.
And people are like, well, so-and-so something doing. It's like, I'm doing just how you told me. And that's what they believe they are doing is what was told.
Correct.
When the reality is, there was one step that was skipped, but they forgot, or they didn't know it.
Or they were just told once.
Or told once. There's no coaching. It's like, let's just double check to make sure your process and my process are the same. And not trying to gotcha, but just simply like, let's coordinate and clarify that we're on the same page.
Yes.
And, oftentimes we'll see people write down processes like, yeah, but just skipped a step. I am notorious for skipping steps because my brain functions in a way it's like it just goes to the next thing that I remember. I was like, yeah, but there's 3 things in there, Andrea. And I am notorious. But I am. All right. So if we're running across this and maybe you're one of the manager leaders or an employee who is noticing we keep hitting this same snag over and over and over again, where do we start?
Well, I think first, is the solution? I mean, did we really solve the problem? And if we did really solve the problem, then it goes back to the leadership, the communication piece, and how good of a job are we at doing and explaining this is what's been changed, this is why, this is how it's going to help us, and this is how it's going to impact each individual where there's those one-on-ones.
So people understand why we're doing what we're doing.
Yes. They need to understand the why and what they're doing differently, which may involve, I was just talking to a group this morning, it very well may involve that you're no longer doing certain things, especially these workarounds, because let's just say, for example, it is a implementation of a new software or whatever. That implementation possibly remove the reason we needed to do workarounds because we didn't have the right software in the first place, right? So now you don't have to, but it's identifying what are the things that they've been doing and what's the software now going to do for them. So they need to stop those things. And then they need to learn that, this is how the software is going to help them.
So that's actually step 2. So mapping out what is actually the process versus whatever we used to do. So let's map out what we used to do. Let's map out what we're doing. And then we're doing those things. Like we all need to agree on whatever it is. Correct. And then just make sure that we're doing the simplest possible. Let's not do double thing. Let's not do,
that's where the stop
workarounds
comes into place. It's like there's things they got to stop doing.
Yes. And so here's why we're doing it. Second is let's document and simplify it, because something that's going to take 6 steps more than we need to is never going to be done correctly. Correct. Let's just, and one of the things that when you're taking a process and we're trying to fix it, we always add things to it, right? Which makes it more complicated. It's like, no, is there a way to take out 3 steps here? Is there a way that we can automate something so that we don't have to touch it or we don't have to rely on so-and-so to take care of such? Like it's let's simplify it, because the more automated something is, the less errors there will be and the less workarounds that there's not going to be. And then what? Then what do we know? So we've identified why we're doing it. We've created a simple solution. Now what?
Well, you have to coach to it.
Right.
You have to train people. And so that doesn't happen just the one-time conversation, though. That's coaching. We're going to walk through it and we're going to check in with them. What's working well? Where are you frustrated? What are some things? What are some quick wins? So it really involves that manager prioritizing their time to make sure they're checking in with each person and that things are moving forward as it's been laid out, as whatever this process change, whatever it is. But the person needs to be able to talk to someone as well. So if they're frustrated, let's talk about that frustration. And let's also talk about the little wins too. Like, what are those little wins that are happening? Good. Because maybe we can share those with others. And it's really moving them through that acceptance and getting them to create that new habit. It may take a couple weeks. It may take a month. But as that manager, each person you're working with, that timing might vary. Some might pick up really fast. Others may take longer and be a little more frustrated. So,
but the responsibility needs to stay with the person doing the job. We have to, as manager leaders, I'll just fix it. I'll just rescue you.
No, that's the coaching. It's that.
We've got to coach back to what the expectation was. Because
checking in with them.
If we change something, then the rest of the process doesn't work. Or the rest of the people don't understand what was changed.
Correct.
And therefore we aren't running on a system, we're running on a workaround.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's just not a flip of a switch. And it's just not just because we tell people whatever this new process is that they're just going to do it. They need to understand why we're doing it and how it's going to impact them. And in that, how that's going to impact them is what they're doing differently, what they're not doing now. And then they have to start practicing it and get feedback on it. And just it's that patience to let them practice to get good at it, because they have to stop the old habits, and that takes time. And then
it's going to slow down, and it's going to slow us down too.
Yeah, they're going to overthink. It's going to take longer to do things, and so we just have to be a little more patient, but make sure that they're making progress, and we're doing those check-ins.
I can't tell you the number of times when this subject comes up. We're trying to solve the same problem we've been solving over and over and over again, or the same issue keeps coming up over and over and over again. And there's always a blame, but there's never a real, true root cause of what's happening. And my experience is that it's always more than one thing. It's not just the process isn't documented. It may be the process is documented, but it's incorrect. Or the process is documented and it's correct, but people are doing workarounds. Or the leader is saving them and they're doing something different, or they're not holding people accountable to walk. It's all of those things. And as simple as the concept is, the frequency in which this concept comes up is crazy to me. Because why do we keep beating our head against the same wall here over and over and over again? Yeah. So I just want our listeners to I hope that they didn't tune out too soon in this thinking, oh, I already know all this. That's great that you know all this. But the question is, are you and the people you work with living it? Are you questioning why do we keep coming back to the same problem over and over and over again? And are we getting to root cause? And are we going to find out, not just listening to what people are telling us, third, fourth party in the process? Take your time and make sure that you're really looking at how frequently is the subject coming up in your meetings, in your one-on-one conversations, looking at the frustration that people are just like, here we go again.
Yeah, because it's not about changing the process. It's about, do we have the right process and teaching, coaching the process.
Right, right. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of The Leadership Hustle. And if you found this valuable, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode.